Hi everyone. Let us just wait. I can see that people have started logging in, but I'm going to just wait for a few more moments to make sure everyone gets the notification. All right, well, I hope you're having a nice Sunday so far. Before I dive into today's topic, I do want to wish all my friends in India and everyone around the globe of Indian heritage a very, very happy Independence Day. I posted a very short video this morning in Hindi wishing all of us a happy Independence Day, and I took the opportunity to wear a Nawari sari, which is the traditional Maharashtrian 9-yard sari, and that was so much fun. And, you know, wearing the nath or the nose ring. So yeah, any opportunity to wear a sari, and that's always fun. So all you sari lovers out there will agree with me that in lockdown, we don't get much opportunity to wear all that, you know, all the fun stuff, like the traditional stuff. But I took the opportunity in honor of Independence Day to actually do a video wearing the Nawari sari. So that was fun. All right, so you all know the drill. Those of you who've been joining me on this show for the last so many years, when you log in, don't forget to say hi, Nim. If possible, let me know which part of the world you're logging in from, which city. As you all know, I live in Sydney, Australia. I've been here for the last 25 years, originally from Mumbai, India. Those of you who don't know me, my name is Nim Holkar. I'm an author, motivational speaker, and life coach. I'm the author of 4 books. So if you haven't read any of them, please do so. Particularly in lockdown, it's a good time to catch up on some lost habits. So if you used to be a bit of a bookworm but haven't been reading for the last few years, why not start with one of my books? All right, so here's Philomena from Malaysia. Hi, Philomena. Thank you so much for joining in. Rupinder says, Happy Independence Day, Nim. How are you? Happy Independence Day to you too, Rupinder. I am well, thank you. I hope you've had a nice Sunday as well. Preeti Agarwal, how are you, Preeti? Happy Independence Day to you too. Awesome. So today we're going to talk about a universal topic, happiness. I know a lot of you had sent me messages and emails and put some comments on my post talking about how to actually be happy. And I know that sounds like a simple concept, but apparently it's not, because a lot of people are struggling with happiness and finding it difficult to be happy. So I just want to start by saying that something I've always believed is that happiness is not just a choice we make, it's also a deliberate decision. Okay, let me repeat that. Happiness is not simply a choice, it's also a deliberate decision. And it is one of those few things in life that are within our control. I know you may be thinking that, no, your own happiness is not in your own control. It is completely dependent on someone else. Maybe a family member might not be treating you right. Maybe someone at work might be a bit toxic. And you are expecting that if they fix their behavior, if they fix how they deal with you or talk to you, only then will you be happy. But we all know that we cannot change others, and the only person we can truly hope to change is ourselves. So remember that nobody else should be held responsible for something as precious as your happiness. You need to take accountability and responsibility for that yourself. A bitter pill to swallow, but it must be. Okay? So I'm going to actually read out to you, while we're still waiting for everyone else to join in, a couple of really insightful quotes related to happiness. The first one is, happiness is letting go of what you think your life is supposed to look like and celebrating it for everything it is. Okay, so stop thinking about how your life is supposed to be or how it's supposed to look. Instead, look at what you already have and start being grateful for those things and for those people and for those moments. Another quote I wanted to share with you is, happiness is like a butterfly. The more you chase it, the more it will elude you. But if you turn your attention to other things, it will come and sit softly on your shoulder. So let's stop being obsessed with happiness. Instead, let's start focusing on actions, deeds, words, and behavior that add meaning and purpose to your life. And as you go through that process, you will become happy. Having said that, I do want to share with you a few actionable strategies because, as you all know, I like my videos to be actionable stuff. I like you to go away with things that you can practice right from day one. So I'm going to share with you strategies that are tried and tested by none other than myself, because there's no point me sharing strategies that I haven't tried myself. So I'm going to share with you everything that I personally do on a daily basis to try and be just 1% happier every single day. As you all know, I'm a huge believer in being 1% better with every passing day. You don't have to take giant leaps of faith. You don't have to do anything larger than life. You just have to make small improvements. Okay, so I know a few people have joined in. I'm going to remind you again, please say hi and let me know which part of the world you're joining me from. Nothing more boring than me listening to my voice and going on for half an hour without any interaction from you wonderful people. Okay, so do drop me a quick line. Dipali, hi Nim, I've been waiting for 4 o'clock. Thank you. Oh, that's sweet. Thank you, Dipali. And Philomena, thank you for the Independence Day wishes. Thank you very much. All right, so the first strategy to be happier, and personally something that I deeply believe in, is picking the right battles. You don't have to accept every invitation to every argument. So many of us, and particularly in lockdown, because everyone's working from home, it is so easy to constantly be arguing with the people around us. Okay, what a huge waste of time, what a huge waste of energy, what a huge waste of focus. We're all living as though we're going to live forever and that we have all the time in the world, which is why we spend such a huge chunk of our time in pointless battles. But once you understand that life is finite, time is finite, you're here on this planet only for a limited amount of time, that's when you'll start becoming protective and possessive about where each moment is going. Okay, so I'm a big believer in picking your battles. I don't necessarily accept every invitation to every argument, and trust me, I get invited to many arguments all the time, like all of us, but I don't accept that invitation if I feel it's not worth my time. Many times you've got to ask yourself, is peace of mind more important or is being right? If you are obsessed with being right, you're going to be miserable for a huge chunk of your life. I don't need to be right all the time. Sometimes I'm just going to walk away from a battle because I prefer to be at peace than to be right. Do you want to be happy or do you want to be right? Okay, now that's a choice you have to make. Now, how do you know which battle to pick, right? Because sometimes every battle seems like it's calling out your name and inviting you. So how do you know which to walk away from? Well, in the investment world, what they call the cost-benefit analysis, that's what you need to learn how to do. It's not going to be easy. Please don't tell me it's easier said than done. I know that already. But anything in life that is worth having is not going to be easy. I have been saying this for many, many years. This obsession with things being easy before we attempt it, that's what we need to scrap from our lives. If it's worth having, it's not going to be easy. If it's worth doing, it is going to be easier said than done. You've just got to embrace the fact that some tough times are ahead of you if you are going to change certain habits. Okay, but I know that it can be done. So you start doing a cost-benefit analysis, because every action has a consequence. Is that consequence worth it? Is that consequence worth your time? So the way to do a cost-benefit analysis, or the way I would do it, is, are the costs of fighting this battle greater than the benefits? If the answer is yes, that the costs are higher than the benefits, then you walk away from the battle. But if the benefits are more than the cost, then you dig in your heels and you fight. Now, it's not going to be something that you miraculously learn overnight. It's going to be a lot of trial and error. It's going to be a lot of practice. But like they say, with practice, you just become better, no matter how difficult the task ahead of you is. Okay, so the best way to figure out which battle to pick and which to walk away from is to find out whether the costs are higher than the benefits. All right, now I know exactly what you're thinking. You're saying, but Nim, if I don't stay there and argue it out, won't people take me for granted? If I had $1 for every time people have told me that, I would be financially free. Okay, so here's the thing. I know you're worried that if you don't argue and if you don't stand your ground, then people around you are going to start taking you for granted. That is not the case. Okay, when you walk away from let's say somebody in your family, maybe a family member, maybe a colleague, if they say something rude to you, if they say something that's insulting, okay, and you choose to turn a deaf ear and you walk away. Now you're worried, you're thinking that if I do that, then they're going to take me for granted. But here's the thing that so many people don't realize. If you walk away from this person who has just been rude to you, and you go about the rest of your life blithely, and you put this out of your mind completely, there is no way the other person has any power over you. And they sense that. And the minute they recognize that they don't have power over you or your thoughts, they can't take you for granted. Okay? But if you walk away from that battle and you cry, or you feel sorry for yourself, or you're filled with self-pity, or you just can't get it out of your mind, then you're allowing the other person to have power over you. They sense that, and then they start taking you for granted. Okay, so walking away from someone who has just insulted you is not what's going to make them take you for granted. It's when you walk away and remain trapped inside that memory. That's when people are going to start taking you for granted. Okay, so that's the first strategy, which is picking the right battles. The second strategy that I use to try and be a happier person as much of the time as possible is surround yourself with the right people. I can't stress that enough, guys. You need to spend time with the right people. Now in lockdown, it's simplified, right? You're not really out there socializing and stuff like that. But one day, the lockdown is going to be lifted and you will go back to socializing. You'll go back to the potluck dinners. You'll go back to the coffee catch-ups, right? Very important to use this time to assess who exactly is there in your inner circle. As Jim Rohn once said, you become the average of the 5 people you spend most time with. If you're surrounded by people who are gossip mongers, you're going to learn to gossip. If you're surrounded by people who can only see the negative side of life, you're going to become a negative person. Okay, so it's important to be with people who don't discuss other people, but rather who discuss ideas. I'm someone who's very particular about who I allow into my inner circle, and I often joke that to get into my inner circle, you need to have a police check, a reference check, a character check, all kinds of checks, because I'm so protective of who is allowed in. Because you learn to talk like them, you learn to think like them, you learn to be like them, right? And if these are people who are thinking the wrong thoughts, then unfortunately you will get sucked into it. Now here's the thing, there are 7 billion people on this planet. There is no excuse to hang out with the wrong friends. All right, so please use this time to assess who is there in your friend circle. Once lockdown is lifted, who exactly are you going to be spending a huge amount of time with? And I always say, better by far to be alone than to be with the wrong crowd. You may have realized that friends have the power to make or break you. Okay, so if you are with the wrong people, you're going to learn to be like them, and someday you're going to look back and regret it. So you might as well use this time to assess and decide who are the people you will be spending time with once lockdown is lifted. All right, so that was my second strategy. The third strategy that helps me stay grounded and happy is that I begin my mornings with a small accomplishment, something that is easily doable, but that fills me with a sense of having accomplished something. It gives me a sense of being energized. Right now, if you wake up in the morning, and I think I covered this briefly in last week's live video where I was talking about productivity. If you wake up in the morning and decide to tackle the most overwhelming task on your to-do list, right, you're going to be quite miserable for a huge part of the day. So what I do is I trick my mind into starting the day on a happy mode by actually doing something that is small, doable, easily achievable, but immediately fills me with a sense of being energized, as though, you know, I can do whatever I decide to do. So for me, I like to start with my meditation and light exercise routine that takes me about 40 minutes. And I try to get that done first thing in the morning. So I usually wake up about 4:45 to 5 o'clock in the morning. And I like to be up before the sun rises because I love to see the sun coming up over the horizon. And I get my 40 minutes of pranayam, which is the breathing exercises, and my chanting and all that stuff done, and my meditation. Once I've done that, I actually feel so energized and I feel at peace that even if someone were to say something sarcastic, you know, first thing in the morning, and that can happen to so many of us, I am able to walk away because I'm at peace, because I've begun my morning on the right note. Okay, so begin your day with something small, something that's easily achievable, and something that leaves you feeling good. And then you start tackling the bigger stuff on your to-do list. All right. Dipali says 5 a.m. so early. How do you do this? Dipali, because, well, firstly, I am a morning person. Secondly, I'm not someone who likes to sleep a lot, and I've always been that kind. But also, I think the morning hours are sacred because I'm a creative person and I'm a writer. I think best in the morning, so it's just something that I've always been motivated to do. If you are a night owl, it might be a little bit harder for you to wake up that early. But you know, the author Robin Sharma, he wrote a book about the 5 a.m. club, and he swears by the fact that people who wake up at 5 a.m. are just able to achieve so much. If you haven't read that book by Robin Sharma, please do that. But yeah, I just think that a lot more can be achieved in the morning when the rest of the household is asleep, and I'm just more productive at that time of the day. And as the day progresses, then my batteries tend to get a bit discharged. But first thing in the morning, you know, that's when I feel most energetic. It's just, I think, a matter of practice, Dipali. Prahlad says, how do you maintain consistency for waking up at 5 a.m.? So Prahlad, good question. As we all know, to form any habit, it typically takes 21 days of consistently doing a certain habit. And when you do something for 21 days at a stretch without taking a break, they say that it forms into a habit. Once your body and mind have got used to something being a pattern, then it just becomes a whole lot easier. So the way to do it, if you're not a morning person like I am, but you want to cultivate the habit of waking up early, then I suggest you, let's say you wake up at 6:30 a.m. currently. If you're waking up at 6:30 a.m. and you want to start waking up a little earlier, don't try to wake up at 5 a.m. because that's too big a leap. That's 1.5 hours earlier than what you're currently doing. Start small. So from tomorrow onwards, instead of the 6:30 a.m. alarm, maybe you can set a 6:15 a.m. alarm. So just 15 minutes earlier, okay? And then you set that alarm for the next 21 days. Turn it into a habit. Once that's done, then if you want to wake up even earlier than that, then maybe from a 6:15, you move it to 6 a.m. But you have to take it in small steps, right? And then someday, a few months down the track, you might be able to wake up at 5 a.m. consistently. But never, I'm not someone who believes in taking too big a leap of faith, because then you're just going to burn out. So the trick is consistency. The trick is taking small steps consistently. It's like when you're giving up sugar, right? If you've been taking 2 spoons of sugar in your tea or coffee, then going to 0 spoons is super painful. So I suggest go from 2 spoons to 1.5 spoons and do that for a few weeks, and then go to 1 spoon. So I don't have sugar anymore in my tea or coffee, just a choice I made a few years ago. But the way I did it was with incremental changes, small changes consistently over a period of time. Okay. And Priya, could you please reflect on my question? Priya, I will go to your question in a minute. I'm just going to finish my fourth strategy and then I will go and read your questions because I know you've asked me something related to today's topic, but I just wanted to, before I forget, cover my 4 strategies that I've got lined up for today, and then I'll come and read your question, I promise. I'll just say my quick highs. Asta Mode says, hi Naeem. Hi Asta. Seema Bhalla. Hi Seema. Seema says she's from Sydney. I'm from Sydney too. Prahlad, happy Independence Day to you too. Alright, so my 4th and last strategy is very important. You need to go through life as much as possible as an observer rather than a judge. Very important, something that truly changed my life. It is completely possible for you to simply observe what's happening around you rather than judging what's happening around you. Let me give you a very simple example. Let's say someone at work that you work with has got this very loud voice. Whenever they're speaking over the phone or whenever they're speaking in a meeting, they have this incredibly loud voice. When you say person X has a loud voice, you are being an observer. But if you say person X's voice is so annoying, you're being the judge. Do you see the difference between being an observer and being a judge? The minute you become a judge, you open yourself to misery. The moment you become a judge, you open yourself to self-pity, to frustration, to anger. But instead, if you simply observe something without actually giving it a tag, without saying something is ugly, something is annoying, something is frustrating, just observe what is happening without giving it that additional tag, without becoming the judge. To me, that is the biggest secret to happiness. It's because we tend to judge the experiences, the people, the situations, the conversations. Because we turn into a judge, we make ourselves unhappy. Instead, if you simply allow yourself to look around you and observe, soak in, learn what not to do, what to do, you will become a happier person. You will be much more at peace. Okay, so those were my 4 strategies. I'm going to do a quick recap of my 4 strategies to be a happier person. First is pick the right battles. You don't have to accept every invitation to every argument. The second is surround yourself with the right people. Very important. Choose the right friends. Third strategy, begin your day, begin your morning with one small accomplishment, something that can easily be done and ticked off your to-do list, something that leaves you feeling happy and energized. It will give you the energy to tackle the harder tasks during the rest of the day. And the last one is be an observer as much as possible instead of a judge. Now, I'm going to keep my promise to Priya and I'm going to read, Priya, your question. So if anyone else has anything they'd like to share, please do so, because once the live session is over, I won't be able to actually address any questions you may have. So Priya, you say, how to deal with toxic co-workers who gossip and start the smear campaign about you. You need to get out of the environment. You cannot control about what others say or think, but you can choose whom you spend time with. I walked away and quit my toxic workplace. I'm in a much better mental health now. Priya, that's great, and I'm very happy for you that you're no longer working in a toxic workplace. What I'd like to share here is that we may be able to escape one toxic workplace by leaving the job, okay? But life can be strange, and we might encounter similar toxic people in future jobs. I mean, heaven forbid, but it's entirely possible. Right? So sometimes if we don't like a person we're working with, I guess an option is to resign and move on to a different job. But not everybody is in a position where they're able to resign. And sometimes that might be the easy way out, right? Instead, I would encourage anyone else who is struggling with toxic people to stand your ground and to deal with these toxic people there and then. Now, how do you do that? I've done other videos in the past where I've talked about how to deal with toxic people, but let me give you some brief strategies in today's session so that it helps anyone else who might have a similar question. All right. Firstly, I can't stress the importance of actually building networking relationships, building professional relationships with the people you work with. I know a lot of people who have issues with toxic colleagues, but when I ask them, do you actually spend time networking? Do you actually spend a little time making some small talk? Do you spend time having lunch with the people you work with? And so many people say to me that networking is a big waste of time. Networking does not seem authentic. Networking is not something they are prepared to do because they have more important things to do with their lives. Now, here's the thing. I agree that there are important things to do, but I also believe that building professional relationships is very important as well. You need cheerleaders, you need allies in the workplace. And the best way to do that is to invest a little bit of time and energy building those relationships. Networking is not a dirty word. We are networking every single day. Right now, you and I, all of us, we're networking with each other. When you go to the supermarket and you meet the person who's at the checkout counter and you have a chat with them, that's networking. You go to the hairdresser and you chat with your hairdresser, that's networking. But the minute it comes to workplace, where we have to spend time interacting with the people we see on a day-to-day basis, suddenly many of us think that networking is a no-no. Networking is not gossiping. Networking is actually building credible, positive relationships. And I have found in all my 25 years of working here in Australia, I've invested my time in networking, genuinely building genuine relationships. And I've been fortunate enough to have people endorse my ideas. I've had, been fortunate enough to have people cheering me on whenever I put an idea forward in a meeting room. Right? So toxic people, some of them are toxic because that's their nature and they can't help it. But many times people turn toxic because we ourselves have not invested time in building that relationship. We think our work will speak for itself. And I don't think our work has a voice that's loud enough to speak for ourselves 24/7. We also need to spend time building relationships in the workplace. Right? So if you have a toxic person and no amount of, building a relationship has worked, I suggest rather than go and complain to management or go running to HR, you need to have it out with the person concerned. Don't use the word confrontation even in your mind. Sometimes people come and say to me, Monday ko to main is bande ko confront karungi. Yeah, Monday ko main is lady ko confront karungi. Monday I'm going to confront this person. No, confrontation creates enemies. You don't have to confront someone. You simply have to have a dialogue. A dialogue is a two-way conversation where both parties have the opportunity to air their grievances and put their points forward. Okay, so firstly, if you have a problem with a toxic colleague, please don't complain to your manager if you've never actually spoken to your colleague before. The first thing you need to do is clear the air with the colleague. I'll have to do a whole different live session to give you those kind of tips, but I just wanted to leave you all with some basic strategies. So don't complain to HR or management if you've actually not spoken to the person who's doing the wrongdoing, so to speak. All right. Philomena said, I stood my ground yesterday and it worked. Fabulous. That's great. Okay, is there anything else anyone wanted? Thank you so much, guys, for participating in today's session. I hope you've enjoyed. If you have any question in the next couple of minutes, please write that in the comments. Sometimes I read stuff that after the live session has ended and I'm not able to actually respond. Priya says, Nim, I stood my ground, but I've been called crazy, overanalyzing and overthinking, but I can sense and trust my intuition. I also didn't have the option to quit. I was edge of my mental health. Gaslighting behaviors do happen when you stand your ground, as per my experiences. Thanks, Nim, for your time. Yes, unfortunately, gaslighting is something so many people actually watched a movie just last night that dealt with this issue. But Priya, I'm glad you are in a better space right now. And like you rightly said, quitting is not always an option for everyone. I'll have to do a whole different video to talk about dealing with toxic colleagues. But you guys, if you go to YouTube and you search up my videos, I've got I think more than 120 videos out there. And if you search through the different sections, you should be able to find my videos where I have talked about dealing with toxic co-workers and dealing with toxic family members and dealing with toxic friends. So it is a topic that I have talked and written about several times in the past. So Priya, just hop onto my YouTube channel. It's called Nim Gholkar, and hopefully you'll be able to find some material out there that might help you. Okay. Philomena, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed the session. Thanks everyone. Happy Independence Day again to all my family, friends in India, to people all over the globe of Indian heritage. We are celebrating, completing 75 years of independence next year, and that is amazing, something to look forward to. So that's it from me for today. Have a wonderful week ahead. Remember, like I said at the start of today's session, happiness is not only a choice, it's very much a deliberate decision. So that's it. Love you all. See you next week. Bye for now.